Thank you everybody for coming to the Zoom class. I would like to give a special shout out to some people who are joining us now for the first time. The women from Grand Day River in Toms River, New Jersey. It's an honor and a privilege that they're joining this group, this mastermind group. We're going to catch them up to date. Just wanted to do a shout out to welcome them to this group. So this class is a continuation of the series. Now, in addition, is that as I've done in the past, I try to make this as interactive as possible. And actually this time I tried plugging in spaces for questions to get people interactive because, like I've said in the past, I'm a feedback junkie. And the truth is, it's not about me. This is where we crowdsource the truth, as we said in the past. This is where people come together, great minds come together, and we can figure out things together. So I really love when people jump in, have questions. I'm not afraid of questions. I don't claim to know all the answers. And this is the journey we're taking together. This class is called The Lost Self, as we'll see during the class. And it's a result of a question that I received in the emails. So this class is a result of an email I got from a woman who, Baruch Hashem, gave me some good, very positive feedback, and she really was listening because she wrote down a lot of the points that she really took away. What she wrote in the email was as follows. She said, one question I would like to explore would be how to form and hold your own opinion, as well as how to know when to surrender to someone else's opinion. Sometimes I feel like I don't know what to believe anymore because there are so many options, hashkafically, etc., and all of them seem to have truth. I assume your course will lead me to more clarity on this topic on its own. So it's okay if you don't formally address it. Thank you. So really, the reason why I picked it, I get Baruch Hashem emails, and I try to pick those that would resonate the most. And I believe this is a question that many people have. And it's in a world where there's no truth, but there's so much information out there. And I really appreciate what she said at the end, because that means she's really getting the course where it's true that she will get it on her own. And that's going to actually be part of tonight's theme. So she's right. If I don't formally address it, she'll get it. At the same time, we will address it. At the same time, it's really going to be evolutionary in the way of getting this idea. So this class will also help if you have any of the following 10 symptoms. You're a people pleaser. You have the inability to set boundaries, nitpicking or hyper aware of people's behavior, the fear of speaking a truth, the belief that you're responsible for someone's emotions, the fear of rejection or abandonment, consistently asking a partner if things are okay, absorbing the emotional state of another by default, low self-worth, and indecisiveness, or the fear that you'll regret any choice you make. And that's really related a little bit to the point of the question. Now, I'm going to mention ideas that are going to be what's called on an extreme. The question is not necessarily in any form or manner. It's a question I think most people have. I'm just going to answer it on one end so that we can then absorb it in the full intensity of the concepts and see how it relates to our lives. So let's first recap, especially since we have many women joining us for the first time, as we do in every class, to recap where we are in this journey. So we started off class one, we said, why are we here? Said, why are we here in this world? Why are we here in this marriage? Why are we here in this job? Why are we here on this class? So he said from the Ramchal, from the Mesil Yisharm, from Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he says it's that a person should become the Adam HaShalem. A person has to become themselves. That's all we can be, and that's all we're supposed to be. And that's the objective, how to become the ultimate you. In class two, we said, how do you do that? How does one become that? And what does it even mean to be the Adam HaShalem? So he said it's your intimate relationship with Torah. And we said that what's so interesting is the etymology, the root of the word Torah, which unbelievable idea from Rav Hirsch, comes from the word of hara, pregnancy. What does pregnancy have to do with Torah? It's planting the seed inside the body, creating a living spirit. It's taking the knowledge, the divine wisdom that saturates the brain, and that then plants, that comes down into the body, planting that seed into a living spirit. A person becomes a divine creature. then we said in class 3, what does that look like in practice? What is it? How would we see such a person? And we said, that means playing your part. Defining yourself intrinsically, just being you, not trying to be anyone else, not defining yourself based on anybody else. It just means playing your part. Class 4, we spoke about how to stay connected, and that means to our bodies, to be grounded, and we did a lot of exercises and conceptual groundwork to understanding it's all about ourselves. In class 5, we spoke about, and again, a lot of these were related to questions that people had asked, but it still is going in that way. It was called Silence Dreams, which is what holds us back. Why are we not like the child who's just dreaming and living and excited and waking up with a smile and saying, Maida Ani, thank you Hashem that I am me, are all the fears. And we have to become aware of that and notice the FOMO that we have, the fear of missing out, instead of what I call FOMI, the fear of missing in, living inside, which that was class 6, which was living with insight, which is start looking in. Stop looking outside so much. Look inside yourself. And class 7 took it a little bit further, which was, are you in or are you out? And that is because every single person is the Olam Katan, what we call the microcosm. Everything, not just start to look inside, everything is inside of yourself, as a microcosm is to the macrocosm. If you're being yourself, that's actually how you experience the whole world, not even just yourself. Your whole world is based on how you're being yourself. So what's the agenda for tonight's class? And by the way, at any point in time, anyone could jump in with a question, with a comment, either by raising your hand. Mindy will monitor that, and that's my sister, and she's running It's Her class. And or you could do on the chat. There's a chat. You could put on comments, questions, whatever. We're all mature over here. This class is a VIP class. It's not put out there for the public for that reason, because it's a very mature type of a class. So any comments and questions are all appreciated. What's the agenda first? Actually, it's interesting. This class was just evolved literally like just till a few minutes ago. Because it was going to be one thing and they kept on trying to make it more basic. So we'll see how many of these ideas we can get to. But the agenda for tonight's class is the depth of what we spoke about in the last class called the projector principle, which was we described man as the microcosm. We said that just like a projector, you see what's in the microcosm, in the macro, which is that the person experiences the world based on who they are. And just like a projector, what's out there on the screen is not really what's out there. Don't change what's out there. It's what's inside the projector. Go inside a little bit deeper into that concept, which, as we spoke about last class, Hanmin and me were having a nice discussion at the end. I said, well, that's philosophical. And I said, next class, as we see from the question that I got, is going to be a little bit more emotional. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a little introduction to relationships, the ideology, which means the source of self-doubt and the consequences of that, that we doubt ourselves, why we can't make decisions, which is related to that, the implications of that, and the synthesis of Bishvili Nevra Olam, which we spoke about, the seemingly contradiction of what does that mean? Is it for me or because of me? Is it one for my own input or is it for the output? Is my responsibility? The resolution for how to get confidence and how to have direction in life, and then what's the takeaway from this? Oh, what's a basic understanding of this that we could use in our lives? Okay. Let me start off with Chavi's story. Now, that's not her real name, and some of the basic facts have been changed, but this is a woman that I was speaking with just this last week. So this woman was telling me about her day off and how impatient she got. She was so impatient that they weren't doing anything, and she got very upset at her husband, that why we're not doing anything, and we're just sitting around, and we should be doing stuff. So I said, why'd you get so upset? So she said, no, I'm okay with chilling. I'm okay with not doing anything. I just need to know that we're not doing anything. I said, why? If you're okay just being there, so why do you need to know this? Why does it have to be planned out? So we were able to get to a place where we realized that when she grew up, she wasn't given value for just quote unquote being. She only feels good when she's doing something, which in her words is accomplishing. Now, because of that, her current symptoms are related to all the things we mentioned previously. All these different things, some of them are more not so obvious, but these are the symptoms. pleasing people, an ability to set boundaries, all of them, the whole list. And the question is, why? So let's first discuss what it is that she needed. What does that even mean? What does that mean that she needed to know that we're not going to do anything versus just not doing anything? She felt safe with rules and a plan. We have a plan. We know what we're doing today. And I'm going to put out the question over there. And please, people jump in. Please help me moderate it if anyone's going to say anything. Why? Why does she feel safe with following a plan that they have for that day? And why couldn't it just happen? Why couldn't they just, whether they're going to do something or not, which is what's going to inevitably happen whether you have a plan or not, if you're going to plan to do nothing, she's okay with that. Why does she need to know that? Why does she need to feel that that there's a plan and then she could do nothing? Now, by the way, the reason why I'm advocating for people to write on the chat or say something is because then it actually, you learn the material better, because then it's not just intellectual, it's actually experiential, and it lights up different parts of your brain when it's interactive. So in case anyone has, the chat is easy, you don't have to say anything, but just write on the chat. It takes a second. If you go to more on your screen, you'll see that it says chat, and that's open for everyone to just write a comment. And you could write, why would a person want to know that they're not doing it, that they're not doing anything that day, that's the plan. So, okay, you'll get warmed up, I guess. And if you have any thoughts, you can just write out there. It's okay. You don't have to write your name or whatever. So I'll tell you why a person would feel safe that way. Because if there are rules, and then the person follows those rules, whatever the rules are, it could be arbitrary rules. It could be that this is just what the plan was, and we could have made up ourselves. But when we follow that, then we feel good, because we did what we were supposed to do. We followed the rules. Why? Well, what's the ideology of that? Why would a person need rules to follow to feel good? So the reason is, if a person wasn't validated for whatever comes from inside of them, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does it mean that something is valid? When you say something is valid, that means it makes sense. You can trust it. Now, what's the mechanics? What is the mechanics of saying something makes sense or something that doesn't make sense? So we're going to define invalidation. What is invalidation, and what does it do to the person? I say this all the time. I tell people, if I had one sentence in my office that just would be the sentence, I have like a little gap by on top of my windows in my office. I have 3 windows lined up and I have this little space on the top. So if I had to have a sentence, it would be the following sentence: when in doubt, validate. And that's my trump. That's the one thing that is kind of hakoil is validation. Why is it so important? Now, what is invalidation? By definition, invalidation is the process of denying, rejecting, or dismissing someone's feelings. Invalidation sends the message that a person's subjective emotional experience is inaccurate, insignificant, and or unacceptable. Invalidation is one of the most damaging forms of emotional abuse and can make the recipient feel like they're going crazy. What's scary, it can be one of the most subtle and unintentional abuses, as we spoke about in the previous class, called microtraumas, and someone had responded to that class too. The invalidated person will often leave a conversation feeling confused and full of self-doubt. Really, there's so many key words over here. And again, I'm just going to touch a lot of different things. There's so many ideas. In case anyone has any questions or points, you can just put it on the chat. But really, every one of these words, like feeling confused, self-doubt, there's subjective emotional experience. There's all these words are so key to describe the insidious experience of invalidation. So essentially what invalidation does, it says that it's not valid. So what? It says don't trust. Don't trust what? Don't trust your emotions. It's incredible how many people that I've seen in a state of unhealthiness, because of the experience of being invalidated. What invalidation essentially does, it rips out the inside of the person and says, okay, we can't trust this. That is my whole self. You know, I said this by the presidential park in the park yesterday, and I said, I call myself an emotional fitness coach. Why am I an emotional fitness coach? Because just like you have to have physical health, you need to have emotional health. And I would pick any day, hands down, from physical, emotional, I would dare even say maybe spiritual, intellectual, cognitive health is emotional health. Because emotional health is really what makes us tick. It's the strongest part of ourselves. And it tells us what we're really experiencing. The problem is you have many people walking this planet that don't know what they're feeling. Why? How does that mean? Hashem made us. We all have sensors. We all have nerve endings in the physical sense. We have the same thing emotionally. How could it be that we don't know? And the reason why that starts is because we were or are being invalidated. And therefore, we say that this is not valid. So I tell that person that I'm afraid of this, and they say, oh, please, why are you afraid? It's not a scary thing. Oh, okay. It's not a scary thing. Wait a second. But he, inside of me, is telling me it is scary. I mean, I shouldn't trust him. Ah, okay. Now, I don't go inside when I'm not sure or when I'm feeling something. I say that is bad. That's not good. That's not honest. I can't trust him or her inside. That is the most scariest thing you could do to a person, is when you disconnect them from themselves. So therefore you have people feeling that they're only good when they follow rules. What you tell me, if you tell me I know what to do, now I can feel good. If I don't have rules, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I could chill, but let that be in the plan so I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Please, if there's questions, I would love this, because I know there's so many ideas that's flowing through my own head right now as I'm saying it. And there's so many applications in regards to chinuch and in regards to intimate relationships. There's so many applications with friends and friendships and cliques. There's so much ideas over here. But again, we're just touching a lot of the ideas with what we're saying. So therefore, this person felt so confused and overwhelmed because there was no specific plan. And that happens when a person doesn't grow up with that felt sense of
Shlomie,
being and being accepted for what they're being.
Oh, I mean?
Yeah.
Zahava has a question.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Zahava? Okay, you can speak. Yeah.
Okay. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi. So my question is that I think from everything I gather that we do gravitate towards things that, you know, are supposed to serve us. And isn't creating like safety and like routine something that's actually healthy? Because now I'm getting confused. Like, I'm exactly not like that person. I'm like Miss Whim, go with the flow, whatever it is. I don't even like to plan. That makes me very nervous. So I'm sure every extreme is, you know, an extreme. But it's hard for me to understand, like, what's the right way to be in that case. Don't we, like, for children, don't we want to create patterns and routines and make them feel safe and in their environment? I mean,
yes. So so there's a lot of points in your question. Let me take on the last point you just said. Children don't have what's called an internal working compass. They don't have an internal working memory. They don't have that inner sense of self. That's formed when they're children. By us creating, as Rav Volbe's whole sefer of Zrid Ben Chinuch was created around this idea about planting and building, we create artificial structures for the children to get that sense of feeling safe and that things are as they're supposed to be. That's as a child. When we become as an adult, if we're trying to create artificial structures, that means to say that we have not yet matured into being our own self. Children are not yet their own self. They're being formed in those years. They have not developed a sense of self. They don't have that sense of self cognitively. We have that as an adult. If we don't, then we were like that woman who needs to have those artificial plans and structures to know what to do. Does that make sense?
It does. I totally hear that.
Let me say it
but,
on
okay.
let me say it on another level, which is addressing a different one of your questions. The other point is that there's a difference between physical and emotional. And that's really where it comes to objective and subjective. Physically, yeah, we try to create structure. Emotionally, there is no way we can, it's all subjective. It's all transactional in the moment. So if we're creating structure for the physical sense, an orderly house, making plans, yeah, that could be a healthy thing. But if it's because of an emotional need, that would be possibly considered unhealthy. Because that's regarding
all
this.
For the emotional need. Isn't it all for the emotional need? Like, even why do you want structure? Because
yeah,
you
but
want
what do you
accomplish.
know?
Well, why do you want?
Even if we say it's all for the emotional, but what are you structuring? Are you structuring your emotional needs, or are you structuring the physical needs? It's structuring your physical world puts you in a safe place, and then it's the right environment. But if you need it, because if you're okay chilling, either way, you can be chilling. What's the difference if you have a plan or not? That's on this point. It's a little more subtle, but that's really
I would say, Shlomie, it depends how much you're relying on it. That's the difference.
Definitely, that's definitely a good point too. Yeah, exactly. It's more like that's really where the planting and the building. It's like we'll all be safe again. So we've been but the point is, like, yeah, it's also a longer continuum. We want to create structure. At the same time, people they lock themselves into certain patterns to stay safe, but then they're never able to then fly. Right? You keep the bird in the cage, it's going to be safe, but they never fly then.
Yeah, but if your wings were clipped, when you were developing,
Okay.
then you kind of need to learn how to waddle around, and like, you can't really use your wings. I know that you're saying you can develop them, but until you develop them, you don't even know how to fly. And so, like, I feel like you need to be structured, but not too structured. But you need to be this, but not too this. But you need to be that. And like, it overwhelms me. The thoughts of like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get this right. Like, I feel like, it's like I'm never doing it the way it should be done.
So
and
I
then
mean,
I say to myself, yeah.
Yeah. No. So I'm thinking about I'm just thinking about the example you gave with the clipped wings, as if because clipped wings you actually cannot regrow in that way if they're clipped.
Okay.
I would actually think that the bird there is not supposed to have the expectation that they're going to still fly. And I don't think that we have to make those structures. The bird just has to get used to its surroundings and what its limitations are and walk around. Because if you still live with that expectation of that I can fly and you can't, that's when depression sets in. That's when hibernation long-term sets in.
That sounds really sad.
It
could be sad, but then there's people that are let's say quadriplegics that are happier than many of us walking around the planet. How's it possible? How's it possible that people go to this man in Muncie who takes Deershire tests and he's more happier than most people walking around? How's that possible? So I'll tell you, it's really related to the class, and thank you for asking that question. It's a great question regarding structure and regarding living in the moment, which is the premise of a lot of the work that we're doing over here, is that it's about, do I have that felt sense?
The one in Muncie with ALS.
Yeah, right? Do I need someone else to give me that? Am I comparing myself to everyone out there? If everyone was a quadriplegic, would we say how sad? We wouldn't. It's only because we're comparing and contrasting. It's the same external view of the world. I'm sure some of these ideas might be too much over people's heads, so you could bring me down if you need to. But it's the idea we speak about all the time about, and this is really what we're talking about when we're talking about invalidation. We feel like I need to look outside for the answers. And the truth is, no. Validation is the experience that I have all the answers inside of myself. And when I look inside, I see, you have many people look in the mirror and they look at their body and they're so disgusted with their body. And they'll be able to rationalize that and say, yeah, look at me, look at this, look at that, look at this. And you have people that are like a quarter of objective beauty of that person, and they just love it. They look and they say, "What? Look at this! Look at that! How is that possible?" It's not objective. It's all these things are subjective, and the answers are: you're looking inside, you're looking outside. That's really what it's all about. So,
but on a practical level, how does, maybe for that chilling girl, maybe that's the best she can do right now with what she has, like to create that false sense of structure so that, you know, this is what brings her grounded. Like if she didn't have it, the alternative would be so much worse for her. So she
right.
already figured out what works for her.
So there's what we call healthy coping mechanism, then there's unhealthy coping mechanism.
So what would be a healthy coping mechanism in her case?
You and Mindy always want to get me to give an instant, like, you know, answers.
I don't mind. We want the answers, Shlomie.
It's not always the quick answer is that's the best one. If we do it too quickly, we fall prey to not allowing ourselves to evolve.
But what does it look like?
We're going to get to it. We're going to discuss this a little bit today. And it's going to be something that's going to be a whole process. Like the woman who asked the question, she had that beautiful insight to really say, you don't have to answer my question, because I really get from this project that I'm going to get the answer and it's going to come to me. And she's right. You are. And your question is going to be answered also partly in today. What? Is it my Wi-Fi? But I'm hearing like everyone breaking up a little bit. So I don't know if it's me or
I was speaking in while you guys were speaking.
Oh, okay. So let me go on a little bit more to explain this concept. Where does this all start? So, like we're saying, it starts from as being a child. What is chinuch? Anyone want to put something out there? Right? Like what is chinuch? What is the mitzvah of chinuch? Again, you could just easily write on the chat. I feel like so much more interactive when if you just like write on the chat, chinuch means this, chinuch means that. And it'll make it so much more of a group process. If you could it's by more on the top right of your screen, you go to chat, just write something and that'll help the flow of the class. So what is chinuch? So again, we always look for the etymology, which is the root of the word when we're trying to describe something. Chinuch comes from, like we find Chanukas Habayis. What's a Chanukas Habayis? Chanukas Habayis is when you're moving into a house. Now, it's not just the moving into the house that you're celebrating. It's, as the Mefarshim explain, Rashi explains in a few places, it's starting something that will last. Chinuch is the inauguration of something. It's the foundation. So it's not just for now. When you're being mechanech, quote unquote, your child, it's not just for these years till you get them out of the house and then you did your job. That's not the objective of chinuch. Chinuch is starting something that it says in the pasuk, Gam ki yaskin al yasim imenu. This will continue for all time till the person is old and gray. You're a child. Now, so if that's the case, so teaching by example, yeah, that's definitely a very good example, and because we know people learn more from what we do than what we say. So whoever put that up on the chat, very true in regards to chinuch of a child. So if that's what chinuch is, what does it mean the pasuk al pi darkai? Why? What al pi darkai? What the child's going to dictate to me? What I should be mechanech my child? I know what I'm supposed to do. I have my values. I have my priorities, right? Al pi darkai. What I have to go ahead and what's called Yiddish stelzu. I have to then go and put myself in their shoes and then give them the chinuch? What does that mean? So the truth is that chinuch would be very well described, as the Vilna Gaon describes it, as channeling. Chinuch doesn't mean to say that I'm going to shape this child and mold the child the way I feel is right. No, that's not what chinuch is. Chinuch is taking the derech of the child, the nature of the child. And this is so important when you understand what we're talking about over here with validation and invalidation. I can't overstate this. Anyone that has any child or plans on having a child or has a grandchild or a niece or a nephew, someone that they relate to, this is so important. You're not shaping the child. You're taking the child and you're channeling it for the good. Notice the derech of that child. This actually relates to something I said in Grand Day River when I was there a few weeks ago for Shabbos. I said over a beautiful custom, it's just so beautiful, so it's worth it to say it over here as it relates to this idea. There are many people have the custom and blessing their children Friday night, or some people do it once a year. Be that as it may, I want you to a beautiful approach to do, which is when you bench that child, what are you having in mind? So we say the text, but beyond that, notice one of the most beautiful and prominent traits and characteristics of this child. This child could be a leader type. This child could be an energetic type. This child could be a charismatic type. This one could be a more thoughtful child. This one could be an insightful child. And if you're following me, you probably saw some of my children, if you know as I'm speaking. And this one's a more pure child. And what you do is that what a bracha actually is, there's so many ideas I'm just throwing out there, so if it hits you, if not. Bracha is from the brecha. It's actually a source. When we bench Hashem, Baruch Atah Hashem, what we're actually doing is saying that the source should overflow. You're having in mind that child's prominent trait should overflow and should be channeled in a beautiful way. Such a beautiful bracha you can make every single week, Friday night. That's what it means, Al Pi Darka, yes, based on the child. Let me share a vignette that illustrates this so beautifully. In Kelm Yeshiva, this was one of the most prominent yeshivas in pre-war Europe. So the Kelm, they were very anti-Gashmis, very anti-Olam Hazeh. They were very into not eating and self-control and self-discipline. And on the bottom of the list, or they better say on the top list of their hit list, the blacklist, was money. Money was like the enemy. The Alter from Kelm, the Alter was the Rosh Yeshiva. He was the leader of the Kelm Yeshiva. His daughter had a desire for money. Oh my, can you imagine? In today's times, he would have threw her out of the house. That was like the worst of the worst in Kelm. What did the Alter from Kelm do? Unbelievable insight, the Musar giants. He realized this is his daughter's darka. This is her trait. He didn't break her. He didn't reprimand her and berate her and scream at her and throw her out of the house. That's not what he did. That's not what chinuch is. You know what he did? Every day, he gave her daughter a kopek, or whatever the currency was. He put it in her hand, and he walked with her to the pushka and put it in the pushka. Wow. What he did is he channeled her love for money, for charity, for kindness, for chesed, for sharing. Unbelievable insight. That's what chinuch is. Chinuch is tuning into the child. Validation. This is you. You need to know that. And we train our children al pi darkai, who they are. That will have them who they're supposed to be for life. That is the beginning of knowing and trusting your own self. If you're taught to know and to trust and to magnify and to amplify who you are, it's just channeled in the right direction. We don't break anyone. We don't say, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. Oh, what's the big deal? No, that is not chinuch. That's destroying the child. Now, it's actually very interesting that it's not by chance that the one place that everyone merits divine inspiration, where does every single person merit? This is unbelievable insight I once came on to a while back. Ruach HaKodesh, Nevuah, is not for everybody. There's one place that every single person merits divine inspiration, and it's inside the person, as a fetus, inside the mother. Why? I believe the reason is because God is inside a person. As the pasuk says, when the Jews are building the tabernacle, building the mishkans, God says, I will dwell amongst them. There's a famous chazal that says, what's b'seichem inside of them? It's b'seich kol echad v'echad. The divine presence is inside of us. It's inside, and therefore the child, why does the fetus merit divine providence, the divine inspiration that they have, everything being taught to them, they're able to see from one end of the world to the other? I believe the reason is because he or she is inside the mother. And Hashem is inside of every single one of us. So like we said last class, we need to answer the infinitum dollar question. Are you in or are you out? Where is your primary focus in the world? Is your primary focus outside in the world, where your eyes are scrolling around to see what you should be doing, checking that website, asking that rabbi, looking at that class? It doesn't end. If you're always looking outside, then you're not going to know what to do. As the woman who asked the question so eloquently in her email, she says, I don't know anymore. Go on Torah anytime, and on my class on Torah anytime. It never ends. Someone like me with curiosity, it's just you can go out of your mind. And by the way, not every class is saying the same thing. They're saying opposites. What do you do? So that's the other thing we said in the other class. We said, Chacham Einam V'Roishai. The smart woman, she has her eyes in her own head, going inside to the Bishvili Never Olam, where the world was created. Bishvili. There was only one man, one woman when the world was created, to say that you're the only one. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. That's where the hopeful, perfected destination is. When we could go inside of ourselves, then we're going to merit to have the Shekhinah, and then we're going to have the answer. Like we said, some people want to say, I don't understand. What does that mean? Just like you can't understand what chocolate is. You can't understand a vista if you don't have the sense of sight. If you don't have the taste, if you don't go inside, you will not know what this means. We're going to try to explain it as well as possible. But when a person gets it, they get it. I have people many times who I see for a year or 2 years, and then they get it. And before that, they didn't get it because they're not inside. They're outside. Now, there's a famous Rabbi known for his wit, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern of Kutsk, better known as the Kutzker Rabbi. He was a Hasidic Rabbi and leader from 1787 to 1859. I want to share with you a vignette that happened with him and his Hasidim one Seder night. 1 year before Pesach, he shared with his Hasidim that this year, Eliyahu Hanavi is coming to the Seder. Eliyahu Hanavi, what people would do for Gilu, for Elijah the prophet to prepare them, he could tell you everything you need to know. What is my purpose here in this world? Why does bad things happen to that person? He could share with you all his secrets, all the questions in the Gemara. Says, Tekui, Teshbu, Yishbu, Kushas, V'Yibayis. That refers to Eliyahu HaTishbi. He's going to answer all the questions. Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come. The Rebbe's house was packed. People were like sardines. The Rebbe said Eliyahu Hanavi is coming this year. And they start to Seder, and the place is on fire. They're inflamed. There's ecstatic ecstasy over here. And it comes time for Shvei Chamascha. They're ready to open up the door for Eliyahu Hanavi. You could hear a pin drop would be an understatement. Someone that's right by the door, because it's literally smacked against the wall, opens the door, and there's a gasp. Eliyahu Hanavi wasn't there. And the crowd was just like, their jaws dropped, and they couldn't believe this. The Rebbe promised, the Rebbe said. And the Rebbe was on fire. The Rebbe had the biggest smile on his face. And he was literally like lit up. After a few minutes, he's looking around, he sees everyone sad. And he says, what's going on? Why is everyone so sad? So one chassid answers and he says, Rabbi, the Rebbe promised. Says, what do you mean? Rebbe promised Eliyahu Hanavi's going to come. Eliyahu didn't come. Someone's disappointed. He says, what are you talking about? You think Eliyahu Hanavi comes in through the door? Eliyahu Hanavi comes in through the heart. Eliyahu Hanavi came in, but no one was looking inside. Everyone was looking outside. You missed the boat. Eliyahu Hanavi is inside of you. There's another story with the Kutzker that someone asked me once that, where is Hashem? Many people saying, what? Hashem, where, who, what? There's so much sorrows, there's so much going on. Where is Hashem? And the Kutzker responded, he says, wherever you let him in. That's where Hashem is. He was known for his wit. So then the person asked him, okay, so if I let him in, from where does he enter? And of that, the Kutzker Rebbe quoted a pasuk that we say in the Davar Hashem Oiri, in the month of El. The pasuk is a very interesting pasuk. I'm trying to remember if we said it here in this class yet or not. The pasuk says, L'cha amar libi, I think we did say it here once before. L'cha amar libi bakshu fanai. which we said, how do you read this pasuk? David HaMelech is telling Hashem, L'cha to you, Amar Libi, my heart says, Bak Shufan, seek my face. It doesn't read. To you, my heart says, seek my face. How is my heart telling me, L'cha, to you, that I should, to you, my heart says, seek my face? No, seek your face. Why fanai? And that many Hasidic rabbis say, there's many different that say the same idea, is that because, yes, my heart is saying to seek you because you talk to me from inside myself. The Shekhinah is inside the person. We need to go inside. That's where Hashem is. That's where Shechanti B'Seichem. That's where we know what to do. That's the experience of being validated, of listening to who we are. Now, again, I'm just preempting some questions that people might have. Oh, what I'm supposed to just think? Obviously, there's other, like we say, like when you're planting a tree, you want the tree to plant. Yes, you do have a stick that's holding up the tree. There is something, of course, like a Rabbi, like a Rav, like a friend. There are obviously these different ideas. But as we're going to hopefully get to a quote, I don't know, we don't have that much time. We'll see that actually everything really comes down to yourself anyway. It just means to say that we can have other things that help us out. Now, we mentioned last time a Medrash Rabbi. You know, just to explain, we had mentioned that it says Bishvili Nivra Olam, which simply understood that highlights the concept that the world was created for me. I'm the pinnacle of creation, as is obvious from the Medrash, like it says when the Kadosh Baruch Hu created man, he took him around all the trees of the Garden of Eden, and he says, "Look how beautiful the world is. Whatever I made for you. It's for you." So that we understand. The problem, we said, is that the next line seems to contradict that. And it says, be conscious not to destroy my world. It sounds like it's one of responsibility. As actually Reb Nachman says in L'Kutei Maran, in Torah Hey, he says, Nimtza comes out, if the world is created for me, because of me, Sarchani Leroy, so I have to see La'ayin and to analyze B'chal Eis at all times, B'tikun Ha'olam, in rectifying, perfecting the world, and to fill the cavities of the world, and to pray for them. So again, it seems like that it's our responsibility. And in a way, that's a pasuk we've mentioned in the past over here, a very famous pasuk. We say in Berchas HaTorah, we say, V'chaya olam, the life of the world, nata b'seichenu, God plants inside of us. As we said last class, the fate of the macro world is married to how I manifest my individuality of the self. What's inside of me? Nota b'seichenu. Read the words. It's incredible. If you think about the words we say every day. V'chaye olam, and the life of the world, nota b'seichenu. We say this in the Volotzian. The life of the world, which is the macro world, Hashem planted inside of us. What does that even mean? Because if we are who we are, the microcosm, the Olam Katan, that's the whole world that we experience. I only experience Shlomie Schwartzberg's world. I don't experience your world. We all have our own world. And that gives a sense of individual purpose to the Olam Katan, imbuing self-esteem. Like we said, people walking around with no self-esteem. The idea is if I'm myself, that is my tikkun ha'olam. And I want to be able to address this on a deeper level. How do we reconcile these two definitions of Bishvili? How is taking responsibility of the big world that you interact with the same as of all the pleasures in the world being for you? Aren't these opposites? As we mentioned in the last class, wouldn't it make sense that if I shirk responsibilities, then it's about myself? I'm able to get the most for myself. I could just be a taker. And the other one would be, let's say, being a giver. Aren't they contradictory? How would taking responsibility actually be the most taking the world from me? It seems counterintuitive. So we have a very special edition of this class for the holiday weekend. Yesterday was July 4th, and today is Independence Day. And I want to show something beautiful about America, about the United States of America. We'll be a little patriotic over here, especially in today's culture, in the defund the whole American culture. Let's talk a little bit about what America, the underpinning of the understanding, even to understand how we celebrate our country. When we started off this class, we spoke about Pesach and Shavuos. We spoke about the Lechem Oini. We said, why is that the symbol of freedom? Independence Day celebrates the freedom of the American people from England. We said it's no additives. It has no dependencies. It just is what it is. That's what it's called the lechem oini. The poor person is not dependent on anything or anyone. He has nothing but himself. That's the symbol, we said, of liberty, because ultimately that's the source. What's the source? From independence. What does independence mean? Independence means to say, I'm not dependent on anyone or anything. The greatest freedom is that I can live and do as I please, and I'm not dependent on anyone. As our Chazal said, Hakol b'dei Shemai. We have no control over anything. God controls the world. Chutz miyiras Shemai. The one thing that we have control of is what's inside of us, not outside. When you understand this, it's the secret to emotional freedom. The way a healthy person lives a life is, I don't control my wife, my husband, my daughter, my son, my boss, my neighbor, my constituent. I don't control any of those. I don't control my car. The only thing I control is myself. That is independence. No one controls me, and I don't control them. What's happening outside of myself is not me. That is controlled by the government, controlled by God. But if we're talking about from an emotional perspective, physically, on some level, you could describe it as, yes, maybe we could be controlled. But when we talk about from an emotional perspective, what we're celebrating over here on July 4th weekend is independence. That is the ticket for freedom. I want to delve in a little bit more over here to define this Geula Pratis, this individual specific redemption. As we explained, essentially every situation a person experiences is of the self, not what's outside. This is what we spoke about last class. It was a little bit philosophical, as was pointed out. But however, if you talk about from an interpersonal, relational, emotional, spiritual perspective, but we're having difficulty. There's an automatic reflex called a defense mechanism, which is trying to protect us. Because what happens is that when someone tells us something negative, so we have underground pools of pain and shame that are combustible, as if they were filled with gasoline. Certain events or interactions act like a match, igniting flames of emotion that threaten to consume us. That's what's known as a survival instinct. Where does that come from? It comes from our nefesh bahamis. That's what we call a defense mechanism. It's there to protect us. And, there's so many different, if we had time, there's so many different things to show. Just to give an example, the first defense mechanism just on this list, like repression, this is such a common one. Repression is an unconscious mechanism employed by the ego to keep disturbing or threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. So we'll do so much to repress these thoughts, these feelings, and we'll work our whole life to try to repress those. And therefore, some people become so uncomfortable, as we spoke about on Shabbos, or times of davening, or times of boredom, because then you come face to face with who you are. Now, we spoke previously, like when you're regarding identity, when we were talking about the last class, like identifying yourself, we said, to go inside, not to live in other people's headspace, and how we define our reality. Now, it's actually interesting, as Rav Hirsch, he talks about the intrinsic flaw of the flatterer, someone who flatters other people, whose whole purpose, he says, is to curry favor from others. He says in Parshas Vayechi, as one who is inside is not as his outside. His actions are superficial without inner content. And there's so many layers what he's saying over here, but the problem is the person's externally focused, not being you. But the idea is that all helps intellectually, in foresight, when you're self-defining, when you're deciding what values and what path to take. But the problem is, in the moment, emotionally, another block prevents us from going inside. It could be from ignorance, because we never learned how to do this, or we never understood what this concept is. Or it could be as a negative coping skill, feeling unable to handle this seemingly overwhelming reality. And that's when we encounter what was the opening slide of this class, called the lost self. The person is eviscerated totally emptied out from living in their inner world, the essential self. As the mystics interpret the beginning of the pasuk in Yecheskel that says, "Vani b'toich hagoyla." Yecheskel and Navi were saying, literally the pshat is, the translation is, that I was from those who went into exile. And the mystics say, no, what does it mean, "Vani b'toich hagoyla"? The ani, the me is b'toich hagoyla, is lost, is nowhere to be found. We say every single morning, Elokai, my God, neshama shenasata bi, it's inside of me, my soul. My soul is my chelik al-kamal. God talks to me from his part that he gave me. It's inside of me. Ati yitzarta bikirbi, you formed it inside of me. As we mentioned from Rav Olby in the last class, all the roots are inside. We might need the Torah to be like watering the plant, but you just need to open up what's inside of you. That will help a person know what is real and what is not. You know, it's interesting because I have a lot of people recently I've been working with that wanted to get pets. And on some level, I encourage that. Why do I do that? Because they're known to be helpful for relationships. Why? Because what are relationships, and we're not going to have time tonight, but hopefully at some point we'll get to that a little bit more, is that relationships are connecting with another person. What animals do, like a dog, it allows us to open the faucet of emotions. You know, with people are afraid of the repercussions of opening up. Being rejected by the other person, not getting it right, not following the rules. So we become protected. We become closed. Now, you can't have a real loving relationship without being vulnerable. To connect with another person, you have to make space for another, both inside yourself and within the other person. So the avodah that we're talking about here in this class is, we have to be misakin the lost self. Now, Rabbi says something fascinating when he talks about it in Rosh Hashanah in Pechilik Beis. He says, it's something fascinating. He actually says, Zeho Yom Adin, he's in the middle of a conversation with it. He says, you know what the day of judgment is incredible idea that he says. But he says, the day of judgment of Rosh Hashanah actually could be kiviyachal, so to speak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bo l'toich libes b'nei adam. Listen to this idea. It's incredible. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, comes into the hearts of a person. It's like the divine revelation in the heart. We need to receive him inside of ourselves. And he says, I could never say such words myself. He says, maybe that is the actual judgment. How we receive him. I mean, words are beyond me to try to describe this concept, which really is cementing the idea we speak about in this class tonight. So many people are disconnected from themselves. They need rules and regulations to know what to do. They don't know who to listen to, who to follow. And the reason is because they're experiencing what we call the lost self, emptied out. There's nothing inside. We're disconnected from who we are. Maybe because we were invalidated, so we weren't taught to trust and to know what's inside of us. But Rabbi says the greatest day of the whole year is dependent on Rosh Hashanah. And he says, you know what the judgment possibly is? On how we receive him. Well, we all know it's being Makabel, Malchus Shalayim, Rosh Hashanah. But says Rabbi, you know what it is? It's not out there in shul. It's not out there in the machzor. It's inside yourself. There's no more words that I could say for what Rav Olby says. It's just incredible, this idea that he says. Now, what's the tikkun? Here we're coming to the final stretch in tonight's class. So, again, as anyone knows already from this class, I'm building a lot of groundwork, a lot of the foundation. Like we said, the chinuch. Al pi darkei, then it's going to continue, because if you don't get the ideas, we could go giving the quick and easy answers, but those things don't stick. The real chinuch, the real therapy, the real work, the real avodah is that which digs deep down into the foundations. And actually what the sense of self is the same thing also. The more deeper you have a connection with yourself, the longer it lasts. The more quick and easy, it doesn't last so long. So, but in a general way, we're going to talk about what is the tikkun? How do we find our true selves? So it's an incredible idea. How many ideas are in the opening words of Ramchal? I could probably be busy for 3 years just talking about the opening words. And if anyone's been following me in these classes, you see how many ideas I've been showing. And it's well known the Vilna Gaon said every single word, not one word is extra. He would have gone to travel. The Vilna Gaon didn't waste a second to go to the Ramchal. Incredible. He said it was every word was Ruach HaKodesh. Ramchal says, when we speak about it, he said, Yesayda Chasidus v'Sheish Avoda. These are the opening words of Mesilas Yesharim. Those first 4 words have Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yesayid HaChasidus v'Sheish Avoda. The foundation, that's actually foundation. Many people address that. Yesayid, the foundation. We're talking about Chasidus. The Shirish and the root of the Avoda is what? Says Ramchal, says Ramay Shechem Letzata, she is bar. The person should verify. Now here are the words. V'yisames eitzal ha'adam. You translate the words for me. It should become true by the person. What's his obligation in his world? We already spoke about this at great length. It's your world. Don't live anybody else's world. You just have to live your own world. That is a person's objective in this world. But I want to, what's called Yiddish shtel, I want to dwell on how do you translate yisames? Yes, it has to be by the person. What does yisames mean? How do you make something true? That sounds like the translation. Yisbar, okay, you can verify something. How do you make something true? Someone please give me an answer over here on the chat. How do you make something true? What does it mean to make something true by the person? It is either true or not. How do you make it true? This is Ramchal is telling us is the first thing you got to do. If you want to live your own world, so verify, okay, that makes sense. Go through like a class like this, learn ideas, go to the great minds in the world, verify, fine. What does it mean make it true? It doesn't say, that's already implicit in Yizbar. What do you mean make it true? So I'm going to share with you a word that I feel is the true definition for Yisamis, and that's going to tell us Eitzal Adam. It's supposed to be true by the person, not by anyone else. And this is a word I tell people when I work with people. I noticed this. I didn't even know that I was doing this. I noticed that I do this. I always tell people, I ask them the following word. I go, when I share an idea with them in discussion, I say, does that resonate with you? I'm skipping over here because I realize we don't have time for so many beautiful ideas, unless people want to, or maybe we'll just go a few minutes over tonight. What is resonance? So resonance is incredible how the world in physics, in emotions, it all matches up in Hashem's beautiful world, in spirituality and in religion. Resonance in physics is the reinforcement or prolongation of sound by reflection from a surface or by the synchronous vibration of a neighboring object. Anyone who knows sound, how it works, essentially, and people who know the physical also, there's a lot of resonance there also in regards to health, physical health. Resonance is the idea that there's something else over here that it's bouncing off of. If you want the sound to continue, there's got to be something that it's bouncing off. What I believe Yisamis is that it resonates with you. Yes, verify first. Don't just go inside. You don't have all the answers. Of course not. Of course you have to gather information. You have to gather tools. But that's the stepping stone for the next one. Yisamis, Eitzel Adam. What does it mean that it should become true by the person? Does it resonate with you? Not with your teacher, not with your neighbor, not with anyone else. With you. That says, if you want to become you, to fulfill your obligation, not your neighbor's obligation, not your sister's obligation, no one else's, just your own, it has to resonate with you. And that's why I asked the person, does it resonate with you? Because what am I doing? What am I doing when I'm asking them? What does it do for the person when they hear that, first of all? And then when they finally dig for the answer, you know what it does for them? And this answers the question that we were speaking about tonight's class. They discover their true self. It's incredible. When I ask them, does that resonate with you? They have to go inside and notice if it does or it doesn't. And that's hitting an object and bouncing off. That means there was something there. That is tonight's class. The lost self is the lack of connecting with the inside of the person. Not being yourself. The objective is, and maybe they will get to some of these ideas in later classes, cracking open the moment. Like a social scientist once said, I've always tried to make room for anything that wanted to come from me from within. There's a lot of different ideas, and we'll get to some of these ideas. There's a great letter from Rabbi Lubavitz about going inside. Maybe we'll talk about it in a later class. And there's a great idea from Reb Nosson Breslau that talks about what this woman had asked me regarding, how do you know who to trust? And Reb Nosson says, you don't. It's inside of you. You got to know. You got to be connected. That's the only way you'll get the true answers in life. So let's recap again, because we're out of time over here. But why do people not know? Why don't they know what to do? As we said, the source is, do they trust themselves or not? And we said that starts from a young age, where if we were validated, again, we're not going to blame. That's not the objective, but it's the awareness that we start that evolutionary process. It helps us heal. And also helps if we're parents with young children also. That starts from a young age. And that's because the answers are inside of yourself. Like we said for this weekend, declare independence. Live your moments. Become aware of your own self and ask yourself this question: does this resonate? You're going to leave this class and you're going to think, oh, I didn't connect with that. That's not your truth. Again, you have to first have your sheyizbar. You can't just say, oh, that doesn't resonate. That's why Ramchal says, sheyizbar. Get all the facts and then see if it's yisamis. If it's not, then it's not your chelik and Torah, then it's not what, again, we can't simplify everything. Everything has so many different details. But in the overall, that is what tonight's class was. That's supposed to be me. And okay, we'll stop right now. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I know I have questions. I know there's so many different ideas over here. But I guess we'll take questions if anyone has any. Kind of in the, I guess I'll open it up to you. But again, that was...
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good. I don't know. Much of what you said comes naturally to me, so it's not, I don't have a lot of questions on it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that it's like because last class was more philosophical, more intellectual in regards to understanding in the philosophical sense, the olam katan, that we're a microcosm, and to be yourself, b'shvili never olam. Tonight, tried fleshing it out a little bit more on the emotional level to understand why and how that works is because we experience the world only subjectively, emotionally. And actually, maybe the other classes, I'll show you spiritually how that happens too. It's all from the self. And the secret of living your world is when you connect with yourself. And all of chinuch is all that is about letting the child know and understand themselves. That's our job as parents. And it's our job as adults for ourselves. It's also, and I love the end of this class, which is, it's so deep, but so simple. And it's that Ramchal says in that one word, she'isamis. Does it resonate? Again, first she'izbar. First verify. First get all this. I love people that say I'm an atheist. You're an atheist, you don't know anything. Become knowledgeable. You don't even know the works of Plato or Aristotle. You know nothing. How could you be an atheist? You're an ignorant person. First be she'izbar. Learn the knowledge. Then say she'isamis. Make it true. What does it mean make it true? Does it resonate with me? If it does, it's me. That's who I am. So again, we spoke in previously classes, yes, you can do this artificial ways. And we did that when we spoke about the list of the paper, which about finding different things about ourselves. But from a holistic perspective, which these are, because we're doing just the groundwork over here. We're not doing it. The actual self project is not going to start for a long time. I hope people are not becoming disillusioned because we could start, but you're going to lose out. Because really it is holistic. When you connect with who you are, all those are pratim. Yes, you want to learn pratim. What do you mean? I'm always listening for more knowledge on marriage and child rearing and therapy, but those are just tools. I already know who I am. If I'm going to a parenting class and I have no clue who I am, I'm out to lunch. You can never get it. You can't learn Rachel Bit Chakatan. No one can tell you everything. You're never going to get in the right context. Tell a chacham is only if you give it to a chacham. If you give a tool to a guy, you give me a screwdriver, I'm not going to know what to do with it. Give it to my wife, give it to my son, they'll know what to do with it. You understand? The tools are okay, so how do you do this? What do you mean, how do you do this? Those are the tools. First, become the plumber, become the electrician, become the person. When you become the person, then you're the luchais. Then you'll be able to inscribe, like we said, ben one luchais, ben machaber, and the other one. you have to be you. And tonight's class, we said one word that really sums it up. When we spoke about the lost self, because we disconnected, we didn't trust who we are. Go inside, let it, and I think that it's an incredible thing when I ask people that word, does it resonate with you? And I see them every time. I see the real them come out. And they don't know the real self. They don't know that. But I'm getting it every time. I'm fishing, I ask that word, and what comes out is the real them. And they show me with their face. They show me with their words. They say, no, I don't really understand. I don't really like what you're saying. I didn't appreciate that. Gotcha. I saw you. I saw the real you. Incredible. No one has anything to say? I saw someone clap. That I appreciate it.
I do.
Okay.
By me?
Yeah.
Rabbi Schwartzberg. I think this, I missed a couple of classes before, so I'm not sure if I'm saying it, but tell me. I really feel like we got to the practical now. I feel like all the different things before, when you start this, does it resonate with you, was phenomenal. Because in order to know yourself, you have to really, sort of the class here, you listen to this, you listen to that. And when you really think, am I reacting to my child based on what this person says, or what that person says, or what I really think is right? This I feel like this is where it starts. Thank you. It was great.
100%. Yes, I appreciate that very much. 100%. You can't live your life. I've had this with parents all the time asking, and then they call me up. What do we do like this? What do we do like this? What do we do that? You know, understand? Even I was telling this to someone the other day, and this is actually in one of the sources from the Likutei Halachos from Nosson Breslau. But again, I couldn't get to all the sources because there's so many ideas over here. But you don't even realize that the questions you ask and the way you hear the answer is all you. If you're not healthy, you're perverting it. It's just unbelievable. But the concept we said tonight, like Sarah said so beautifully, is the idea about resonance. And if we understand resonance, we get to see the parameters of who we are. That's how resonance works. Anyone knows anyone with acoustics, you understand the art of resonance. And then you understand that there's something there. It's not limitations. It's showing who you are. It's incredible. That's my part. That's what we spoke about in class 3 about playing your part. That's me. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the funniest guy. I'm not. And sometimes people can walk around saying, so what's so special about me? And you hear people say that all the time. That is you. Find out all those pieces. Realize what's bouncing off of you in different ways. That's me. That's you. Okay. Seems like it was a home run because no one's coming back with any more pitches. So someone else is clapping. I appreciate that. Yes, I do. Okay, so Mitzvah Shem will continue on this theme. We'll see, because there's so many ways to go about this. This class was supposed to be 100 different classes till like a few minutes before it came to this way. And I only spoke about the emotional way. Then there's a whole relational way to describe this. There's a whole spiritual way to describe this. And each one is valid in its own right. People wonder spirituality, relationally. These are all different discussions, and maybe we'll talk about it. And I'll show how that interplay really sets the tone for our whole life if we're working with this thing. Thank you so much again for that other clap. And I'm only seeing my square of people over here. Okay, very good. Another clap. Thank you. Another clap. Okay, I got it. Okay, now I'm feeling good. I appreciate that. Okay. Anyone? Any final points? Okay.
I have a question on validation.
Yes.
What about the people, like, it seems to be a new thing, validation. They never spoke about it in the olden days. It seemed like in the olden days, you just did your duty, and it didn't matter how you felt if you were, that's what my grandmother always tells me. It didn't matter how you felt, if you were happy, if you were unhappy, you just had to do what you had to do. So how did people grow up strong in those days if we're so into validation today? It doesn't seem like it was a thing then, was it?
Great question. So there's actually 2 points that come to mind as you ask that question. One's a positive answer, one's a negative answer. In the negative first, there's multi-generational trauma. It's well known in the medical field that the children of Holocaust survivors, which is the majority of who we are as an Orthodox Jewish community, that they had survival instincts, and you didn't have the ability for validation or the need for validation when you're in survival. There's a big thing with trauma. What's called, if you're in survival mode, you can't be in growth mode. You can't be, because you're surviving. And it's a waste of time and money and energy to do therapy. If, let's say, someone's in a threatening environment, because they can't heal, they can't open up. I've had that experience many times in the beginning of my career. I realized this was a waste of the child's energy and belief in healing, because you cannot heal when you're in survivor mode. And the Holocaust survivors were in that mentality of surviving. And therefore, they didn't have that option of validation. It didn't make a difference what you thought or felt. You had to do what it took to survive. So that's really the negative answer, which is we actually do see a lot of repercussions. A lot of people, some want to say why we're so disconnected. And again, it's also a cultural thing. We're not going to say it's just a Jewish thing, but more than not, the Jewish people are disconnected from their inside. And that might even be what it says in the Gemara, that Yemaisa Mashiach, there's going to be no Mishnah brew, no Halacha brew, no one's going to know what to do. It's for that reason, because they're not connected inside. And yes, that is maybe the divine providence of the Holocaust. We're just wiped out. We have no connection. We don't know what our manhagim are. We don't know what things are. We don't know what halach is, because we're not connected. That's a negative answer. In a positive spin, yes, they didn't need all these therapies and validations, because they were living themselves. We're so disconnected now. We're so invested in our technology. We're so invested in our chasing, well, what we said the other time, what's called the dream snatchers. There's so much out there that pulls us out of who we are, that we're not connecting with our children. We're torn in many different places. We're pulled away. We don't get a chance to connect with our children. And because of stressors, we don't validate our children. So yes, we need to create an artificial crutch to do something which really is really organic. Rav Matzio Salomon says in his book, he says, you don't need parenting courses. You don't need any training. You have it inside of yourself, Yiddish Mama. You got it inside of yourself. The problem is we don't have it anymore inside of ourselves. We are disconnected. We need to actively validate. You need a husband to validate a wife? Why do I need to tell people this? You know why? Because people are disconnected. We're protecting ourselves. That's why we need it. Yes, they didn't need it in those days, because they were doing it naturally. It's something that comes naturally. We are vulnerable to the other person. We're not anymore. And that's why we need validation. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Okay. All right. So I guess it's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I know it's sometimes heavy, but this is what this class is for. The entertaining stuff is other places. Those are the classes I gave to the high school girls. You could hear that on Torah anytime. Very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great night. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Shlomie. Good night.